Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. Excited to be back for another episode. This is episode 103. And I'm trying to get 2 episodes out a month. Man, I'm having a hard time. I missed May by 1 day. So here we are, June 1st, at the point of recording these bumpers, and we got another episode coming out. But we're trying to plug along there. Let's get into some announcements real quick, and before we get into our discussion, I do want to make an announcement that on the Pastured Pig website, we now have a classified ads section. It's a place where you can go unmolested by Facebook and post ads of anything that you have for sale as far as pigs go. So we can do boars, we can do sows, piglets, blah, blah, blah. All that opportunity is there. We've kind of been in a beta testing right now. I've already got 16 listings, and you can sort them by state, you can sort them by category, and so it's working so far. We're testing it and just seeing how it goes and seeing if need increases or desire increases for us to make it even broader. So check that out. Just simply go to thepasturedpig.com. You'll see a classified button on the top menu. There you can sort the ads. And down at the bottom, if you want to place your own ad, just click that button. It's totally free, no cost there. And what I recommend is use some photos. I think photos are really going to help people take a look at what you've got to sell. I've set it up that you can upload as many as 10 photos, and I would strongly recommend that. I think the visual of that is going to be very helpful. Well, this service, this feature on the website, of course, is made available because of the Patreon supporters. So that is why we're able to add this feature, because of the support coming from that. So if you're using our features of any type and you're not a supporter, I please suggest that you maybe support, even if it's for a couple months. We could definitely use that, and it just helps us continue to upgrade and add additional features. As a Patreon supporter, of course, you'll be able to take advantage of some of the stuff that exists behind the Patreon wall, additional episodes, conversations, those type of things. And here lately, we've been doing live chats that I think, quite frankly, are better than the standalone episodes that I do, simply because you're hearing more than one voice. This last episode, or this last live chat, we talked about the issues with the upcoming June 23rd prohibition on antibiotics and how you're going to have a veterinarian's prescription to get that. So the over-the-counter options are going away. So there was some great input by multiple farmers across the country on how they're going to handle that and you know, how that's going to affect their operation. So those are the type of discussions we're getting into, kind of drilling down deeper into topics pertaining to running our pastured pig operations. So check that out. As little as $5 a month, of course, you can be a Patreon supporter. Along the lines of the live chats, we normally do those around 8 p.m. on weeknights, simply to try to accommodate our West Coast friends. So if that works for you, let me know. If it doesn't, let me know that as well. And maybe we'll try to do a different time on a different day if that would allow some other people to be involved. Well, if you've noticed maybe the sound quality of this bumper is a little different, it's because I'm sitting out here on the front porch now enjoying I would say a cooler evening. It's been warm, but a little cooler evening. The pollen has gotten to me a bit, so if you hear me hack and cough, that may be the reason why. But it's just funny. I'm sitting here on the front porch looking down into the pasture that my Red Wattles are on right now, and they are having a blast, literally, in a section of multiflora rows that's on the pasture edge. It's the edge of the pasture and the woodlot. So it's got a lot of multiflora rows, poison ivy, grapevine, all that type of stuff, all that forest edge stuff that grows up. And I've been dumping their soaked feed into that spot all the way down the line. And they've just been doing a great job of clearing that up. So as they get in and super motivated by the feed, they're uprooting the multiflora, eating all the poison ivy, uprooting the grapevine, it's really doing a great job clearing the pasture edge. If I could get them just to go right up an inch away from the electric fence, that'd be great. But they're leaving about a 15-inch buffer there because they know what happens. But it's nice to be able to sit here on the porch, utilizing technology here to enjoy the evening and watch the animals. So along the lines of pasture and setup, I do want to discuss, we're kind of offering a new service. I've kind of fallen into this, and it's growing some legs and taking off, so I thought, well, maybe it'd be worth mentioning on the Pastured Pig podcast. But Kelly and I are offering a on-property consult service, and it's not that I'm saying that we're any experts in anything. We're just simply using our 23 years of managing and building this land here that we've had for this 100 acres that we've had for the last 23 years, taking that experience and people that are acquiring either new land or looking to expand their operations or revitalize some land that they have, and they want just an outside voice or a fresh set of eyes to figure out, hey, how do I set this up for a homestead, for pigs, for chickens, for gardens, some permaculture principles, all those type of things. So we're offering that service. We are traveling. We did one in Kentucky earlier this year. We've got a couple more coming up. So we've got that opportunity there. If you're interested in having us come spend the day or two with you to look at your setup and to do a walkthrough, what we do is after we do the property tour and the visit, then come home and write a lengthy and detailed assessment where we make suggestions, present ideas, even point out some concerns that we may have with the plan. But if you're interested in that, just reach out to me, Troy at redtoolhouse.com. Okay, so let's get on. So today we are talking with Chris Enos from Enos Family Farm in Vinton, Iowa. And I think the best way to sum up Chris's interview, because I don't want to give anything away that he's saying, is they're on just 5 acres in eastern Iowa, and they're a farrow to finish. But Red Wattles are playing a central role in their 5-acre farm. And they're polyculture. They're not just pigs. And they're using this 5 acres as a farm business. So I'm going to let Chris tell the rest of it. And then I'm going to give you a little update because Chris reached out to me before this aired. Actually, reached out to me last week before this aired to give me a little update. So I'll share that update in the post bumper. Welcome, Chris.
Hello.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Those of you guys listening won't know, but poor Chris, I've run him ragged. This is our second time trying to schedule, but it just worked out because I keep giving him wrong dates and wrong time zones. So I appreciate you being patient with me, Chris, and us getting that lined out.
Not a problem.
All right. So tell me about, let's start with Iowa. I mean, you're in the heart of pig country there, right?
We are. Commercial pig it's one of the top, if not the top of the nation here.
Yeah. Yeah, I once heard somebody say there were more pigs in Iowa than there are people by a certain degree or something like that.
Yeah, there's probably more pigs in our county than than people in the state.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, even broader than expected. Yeah. So tell me about your farm. Give me kind of the overview of what you've got there as far as your setup goes and layout of the farm.
So this is the second farm that I've owned and had pigs on. We bought the farm about a year and a half ago. I'm an auctioneer as well, and I was asked to auction off all the contents on this farm, and we had the sale. And I spoke with the family, and we made an offer on the house. It fell through. Then it came back up, and so a little over a year ago, we bought the farm. We took 11 months to renovate the house. We did almost a complete renovation with an add-on. But in the meantime, we decided we would start acquiring animals again. So we got chickens, and we got some goats, and we got some ducks and some guineas and pigs, and there's a few other things added in here and there that have came and went. But pigs are my primary focus for animals, okay. But there will be additional things.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to back up a little bit there. You said something that intrigues me. So you bought the farm and you were introduced to it simply because you were hired as the auctioneer to come in and run the auction on it, I assume, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
didn't sell the property. I just sold the
the
contents.
contents, okay, okay. So that allowed you to see that. So is that your full time job or your professional job as an auctioneer?
No, it's more of a side gig.
Oh, okay.
Right now I'm self-employed. I do handyman stuff, and then
Oh,
my wife and I own a bait shop, and we do additional things. We have a large retail building where we have vendors that sell various things,
yeah.
but she also makes like custom shirts and gifts and stuff like that,
Cool.
along with our bait shop.
So with being an auctioneer, we should be able to do this podcast in like 10 minutes, shouldn't we?
We should, yeah. All right, what are you
rattle
gonna
rattle off that real quick.
get?
Oh, that's great. So, do you ever do that at home? Like, you come home and talk to the wife about what's going on? Do you go through that real quick sometimes?
No, I think that would not go over very well.
Oh yeah,
I do on occasion.
yeah,
We'll just spout off into auction chant,
yeah.
but yeah, we try to separate our conversations to be much more serious.
Very good, very good. Well, I know this is a pig podcast, but I do have to ask you one more question about it. So how do you train yourself on that? I mean, do you go to an auctioneer school? Is there audio tapes you listen to? How do you get to that cadence?
So I went to the Missouri Auction School in the year I went. It was in St. Louis.
Mhm.
Um, but like my brother and my nephew both have auctioned with me at when we sold a building that we had regular auctions in, and we're getting ready to secure another building to start them back up. But he taught himself on YouTube. He
Oh,
went to
good.
YouTube and taught it. But to be able to auctioneer in the majority of the states, I was doesn't have regulations hardly at all on it, but
Hmm.
other states do. You do have to go to school.
Okay, that's interesting. Learn something every day. That is awesome. Yeah, I've always wondered if people from the deep south are good auctioneers. I mean, they talk so slow and such a draw anyway. I didn't know if ever they end up becoming auctioneers or not.
It really isn't about talking fast. It's about putting things in your words between your normal
Right,
cadence.
right.
If you ever get a chance, go online and look at tobacco auctioneering. It's the most interesting thing I've ever seen for
Hmm.
auctioneering, and that's in the South. So Southerners do this, and it's quite amazing.
Oh wow, very good. Yeah, I guess it is kind of more of the filler than it is the speed in which you're covering stuff.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get back to pigs. I'm sorry, I have
Oh,
ADHD.
no worries.
I go down some rabbit trails sometimes, but let's go back to the farm here. So being able to uh, was the farm were they auctioning everything off because it was maybe a generational change type of thing, the family retiring and getting out of it, or
There were four children, and this is an acreage. We have 5 acres.
mm-hmm.
And their dad had passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and he had just tons of stuff, just had accumulated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they were going to start bringing it to our auction house. I said, I'll just come out and take a look, and we decided to do the auction on site. So
Yeah,
it was none of them wanted the property; they all had properties of their own.
gotcha.
The house needed a lot of work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you guys get the house, you start bringing in the animals and everything, and as you mentioned, this is your second farm, so you had some farming experience. So
mhm.
was that just the natural next step to say, okay, this is a good opportunity for us. This piece of property is kind of speaking to us. We want to be here, and we're definitely going to use it as a farm. I assume it had certain infrastructure already in place then.
Limited. The barn had came down in 2011 from a great big windstorm we had here. The building we have that our hogs can go into is actually an old hog building,
Hmm.
but its days are numbered.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't plan on keeping my hogs in buildings. I'm going to do huts and on rotating pasture. Right now it's mud season, so they're in a sacrificial pen.
Yes, I know what mud season is like. I'm beginning to drive me crazy.
Yes, I'm ready for real spring. We're in fall spring right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we joke about here in West Virginia too. It's the get out the short sleeve shirts just in time for the snow to start blowing. So yeah. So, so yeah, you're kind of well, you're not starting from scratch, but it sounds like you're kind of starting from kind of rebooting this old farm that had seen some better days there, and
Yep.
and you say 5 acres. So I'm going to make this assumption: is the Vinton, Iowa area where you're at is that pretty flat? Are we talking tabletop flat here? Are we talking rolling hill? What are you dealing with those 5 acres?
My land is relatively flat. It's got some incline to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have too many places where water's going to pool. Um, it's really rich topsoil, and the area, our county is rolling hills. Grant Wood was from a couple counties away, so like his paintings
Mm-hmm.
are kind of indicative of our landscape. So
Okay.
people think of Iowa as flat. Yes, parts of it are flat, but where we're at is not.
Okay. Okay. So you've got some slope there that you can use to your advantage.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I lament at times not having flatter land. I joke 100 acres and I don't have a place. I've only got one place where I can turn my truck and trailer around on the entire property.
Oh,
And that's
we
true. Yeah, it really is
have
true.
that. We can have circle drives and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
right. Yeah, so I see some of these flatlanders like, man, I don't know what to do with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't find 5 acres flat on this entire piece of land. So there's no way. All right, so let's talk about the pigs. So why pigs? Is that just a piece of the puzzle of what your experience is as far as multicultural on your farm, or is it you have a specific? Are pigs going to be kind of the anchor point of the farm, or is it just one of the cogs in the wheel?
I plan on pigs being the anchor.
Hmm.
They're fast to produce. They're prolific. I'm not pronouncing that right.
Hmm.
Um, and um, I love pork. My
Yeah,
family loves pork.
yeah.
It's our besides venison, it's our favorite meat to eat.
Hmm. Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can never have too much bacon, right? So
Oh no,
exactly.
or pork steaks. That's my preference.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go. So, so what breeds did you start with, or what breeds? I know in your pre-screening you said you used to raise Red Wattle and some AGH. So, are you
Mm.
carrying that tradition here? Or are you going a different direction?
A little bit. Right now. I have red wattle old spot crosses.
Hmm,
I really like them.
okay.
Um, I really like red wattle as a breed. I did not like American guinea hog.
Okay.
The crossbreeds were okay, but the straight runs they had small litters. They took a long time to grow out. Not to make the AGH people upset. It just wasn't working for me.
Right.
And I'm the very first time I roasted a whole hog. I roasted a guinea hog. It was for my 40th, and I couldn't keep the flame down for all the fat
Oh
dripping
yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
We did a spatchcock style on a grill, and I built a block fire pit, and it was flame up the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. So I'm interested in why you like the red wattle so much, and the reason why, of course, it's good fodder for our conversation. But also, I just purchased 11 red wattle piglets. It's the first
Nice.
time ever having red wattle, so this is kind of a new venture for me as well. So tell me what you like about the red wattle. What appeals to you about it?
I like the heritage breed.
Okay.
Uh, the flavor, the marbling is really good. You're going to get enough lard to use without so much that you can't hardly cook the meat.
Hmm.
So good meat density mixed in with good marbling, kind of just overall a good pig, and they grow fast.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
ask you. What finish times have you seen?
I'm looking at 8 to 9 months
Okay.
with proper feeding. If I'm feeding more straight corn type situation, I plan on a year.
Hmm.
Um, but um, yeah, very very standard at night, especially with the crossbred. When you add a crossbreed in, I'm finding much better growth times with them. And the best thing about them is they're good moms and good sized litters.
Hmm. Good. Yeah. Yeah, I've been intrigued by them, and the opportunity came up. Actually, it was a situation where we had poor fairwings with our breed sows, so I needed to get some feeders for this year. So the Red Wattles were something I'd been looking at, and they just happened to be available in my area. So yeah, they've so far so good. I had to castrate 7 of them, but so far so good. We've really been.
Were they 100-pounders?
They were 8 weeks old, so they weren't quite that
Oh,
big yet, but they definitely earlier than or later than what I'm used to.
Not fun.
Yeah. We normally castrate within the first 7 days, and so this was a new experience, but it went well. Not a problem. So right now, how long have you been on the farm with this location?
About a year and a half. We moved in 6 months ago, roughly, but I was here almost every day for a year. So
Yeah.
somebody gave us about a dozen potbelly pigs,
Oh, no kidding.
and I didn't want potbelly pigs at all,
Right.
but it happened, and so we started off with that. And I quickly said, "This is not something that I want to maintain." And I knew what I wanted for a breed, and I found a good deal. I actually traded an AR-15 for 11 of the Wattle Old Spot cross pigs, and they were like 125 pounds for 6 of them, and about 80 pounds for the rest of them.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It was a good deal. It was going into winter, and he needed them gone, and I needed them.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't need the gun. It was one I was going to sell.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a good deal, unless we're talking about like a real high-end Bushmaster or something like that.
About a $600 run of the mill.
There you go. Yeah, that was a good deal then. Absolutely.
We were both happy. That's the best kind of trade.
Yeah. Excellent. So I didn't catch that. I was thinking about the AR too much. So you said 11? Is that what you said?
We had 11. Oh, we had a rough winter, and I've lost 2 over the winter, 2 of the smaller ones.
Okay.
It was just, we had so many ups and downs. It was on a minus 30-degree day.
Oh, gracious.
Yeah,
that's a little brisk.
it was rough.
Yeah. Wow. So you have 9 now, and they should be pretty good size. Are any of those going to be breeders, or are those all you going to take and process those? What's the plan with those?
My plan is to keep 3 of the females, and I have a male that I got, but I've got my eye on a year-old purebred red wattle, and then I'll just castrate and butcher out that male. That's the point to keep. Then I can have at least the male be purebred for now.
Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at maybe keeping 3 breeder sows or gilts, and then have the 1 boar ready to tag team out there when he needs to. All right. So looking at your pre-screening, you talked about some things there about doing some butchering on farm. Now, are you doing that for just personal use, or are you doing that for resale? You're trying to put like a custom shop together?
The regulations are too strict for me to get anything that I could do it for hire or for resale. Friends, family, we can. There's the exact nature of the law, I don't really know, but if somebody comes onto the farm and it's their pig, we can butcher it together. And by that, I mean they clean off the table while I'm doing the butchering.
Right.
So friends, families, and people that are willing to let us or want to learn it, and we have a line of people that want to come to the farm on Butcher Day and learn how to do it as well. Self-taught. YouTube was fantastic for that. But I do have appointments at the locker for people that want cuts and for whole and half hogs.
Right. Very good. So what do you find? What do you find the most critical element of doing your own processing? Is it equipment? Is it the facility that you have, or just the experience? Is there something that's like, okay, this would make my life much easier, or if I knew this or had this specific piece of equipment, things would be much, much better?
I'm using a small grinder, and I don't have a big bandsaw. I'd like that, but I don't have to have it. Using a proper knife and a stainless blade and a sawzall works really well.
Yeah. Excellent. So do you find, so you mentioned that you have people that come around and want to learn. Is that Is that something where people wanting to learn because they have their own hogs, or just kind of morbid curiosity, or they're maybe buying some meat from you and want to have a hand in it?
Some of it is morbid curiosity. Some of it is people just want to have a hand in the meat that they're going to get.
Mhm.
They want a half a hog and they want to know how to do it themselves. They live in town. I actually got a guy we go to church with, him and some of his neighbors want to come to get meat and then go through the process because they're really intrigued by it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, are you doing a scald and scrape, or are you just skinning out? How are you doing it?
I haven't decided. I've done both.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That's which do you prefer out of the two then?
I prefer, I'd like to do all scald and scrape because I want to start doing charcuterie.
Yeah.
Um, I love Spanish ham. Um, and but skinning is easy.
Right. Yeah, it does. It definitely does make it go quicker, doesn't it?
It does. You can process quite a bit in a day skin. And if I'm just doing the majority in pork chops and not curing bacon because that's not something I've done yet, and don't need the skin on anything, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely makes things easier and can get through the process much faster, especially with the after the bleeding out and having to be able to have that skinning process in between. It really makes it easier to take care of versus messing with all the boiling water and the dunking and the different ways that you can do it. Definitely makes it
Mhm.
quicker. So let's talk about the layout a little bit. So how with the 5 acres and the lay of the land that you have in Iowa, there are you doing rotational rotational grazing now, or do you have fixed infrastructure? How are you handling that?
We've been fixed so far, just because with working on the house, I didn't have time to get the pastures where they needed to be. The first year we were here, the neighbor baled hay for us, um, and on a half share. And but I'm going to be I have about 2.5 acres that's going to be designated hay field, so I can supplement and then sell hay throughout the winter. But the rest of the pasture land, which is about an acre and a half, I'm going to do in thirds and just rotate, 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 and then as soon as mud season comes and winter comes, they'll be on the sacrificial pen.
Yeah, yeah. Are you planning on putting back? You said some of the infrastructure you had was on the downhill side of it, but are you planning on putting that back, or are you just going to stick with the porta huts as you mentioned?
I think I'll keep them for the most part in the porta huts. As long as the hog building is standing, I'll keep that for farrowing. Um, when I need to in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer and fall, spring, I'll let them farrow in the huts. Um, but I do plan on building a couple better buildings.
Yeah, yeah, very good. So what do you think your breed schedule is going to be? So with these three breeders that you're going to have, are you going to try to breed at just a certain time of year? Are you going to try to get multiple litters out of them?
I'm probably going to just leave them with the boar. Let nature take its course for the most part. And at this point, I'm not too scientific about it yet, but eventually I'll get there. It's
Yeah,
just not I'm not in that position yet.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, you talked about some expansion opportunities that you're looking into exploring in the near future. What areas are you looking to expand? And is that just in pigs, or is that even outside with other polyculture elements?
We are going to raise more chickens. I've got quail. We just acquired some quail, and hatching eggs and stuff like that. Um, but I do plan on expanding. I want to meet the demand that I can acquire for hogs.
Mm,
So my long-term goal with hogs is to let the hogs produce enough to offset our food costs and to make at least the tax payment, maybe even the house payment on the farm.
yeah.
That's my long-term goal. Getting there will take some work and time.
No, that's good. That's good. And I like that because that's not a that's not a huge foreboding goal to say, well, I want to have a huge pig farm. I want to be able to do this much and have this unrealistic approach to this. You're simply looking at saying, well, we want to cover our food costs, so we want to be able to be self-reliant in that situation, and cover some taxes, and maybe crack the biggest nut when it comes to the bills that you have. So I like that approach in the sense that you kind of manage expectations in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that'll be the cap out at that point with the size land that you have and some of the other things you're getting into? Do you think that would be kind of where it's going to kind of top out with pigs?
I don't know. It possibly. I know that my wife isn't going to want me to have so many pigs that we don't have a place for the manure.
Hmm. Yeah.
The smell will be a real thing here in Iowa. As soon as the ground thaws and right before it freezes, if you're in the country, you smell hog manure because they're drilling it into the farmland. And we don't want our farm to be a contributor to that.
Yeah, gotcha. So what's it like surrounding you? Are there a lot of monocrop around you? Are there other livestock areas around you?
It's monocrop, and up the road is a dairy beef operation.
Hmm.
So the dairy is about 3 miles away, but they raise the steers for meat just up the road.
Hmm. So how big of a deal is that going to be with monocrop around you? Is that something that concerns you as far as your pigs getting out and damaging crop, or is that not a big deal up there?
It could be, but I have hog wire surrounding the property, and I'm going to shore up that. It's older, needs some new posts set, needs to be stretched better, and some places replaced. I don't want my animals out, and neither do my neighbors.
Right.
So my closest neighbor is about a quarter of a mile, though. So
Oh, yeah.
that's a funny story. When we were given the first round of guinea hogs, he gave us 2 males, and they're little, and I'm a big dude. I'm 6'8" and pushing 300, and I had this male by the back legs, taking it out of the truck. I had it in a big dog crate, and the thing twisted and jumped out of my hands. We've saw it 3 other times since then, and that's the last we've seen of it.
Oh, no kidding. So he's still free somewhere then.
He's free, or some coyotes discovered him. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, I've never run into that. I've had them get loose in that type of situation, but they always seem to circle back around. But he split, huh? He's like the Irish setter in Funny Farm. Just took off, and you just see him every once in a while.
Yep. He was done. He didn't want to come back. He didn't know to come back because he had just showed up.
Right. Yeah, and I guess being in all that monocrop around there, probably wasn't a shortage of forage for him, was there?
No, especially where they raised the dairy beef. They have a big silage pile that they just cover it. How they cover them, and there was plenty. I imagine they found him and took care of him, but I don't know.
Yeah. I figure being guinea hog, he probably showed up to the food bowl and probably never left.
Yeah, pot belly, but he.
Pot belly. Yeah.
If I could have released a couple females, we'd have had fewer hogs and we could have hog hunted. But I think people have been more mad at me than
Right.
happy with me over that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about the feral hog population in that area. Is that an issue there in that area of Iowa?
We don't have any.
Yeah.
None I've ever seen or heard of. Anyway,
Yeah.
Southern Iowa might. We're mid, almost northern Iowa.
Yeah, we really don't have an issue here. I've never had an issue, but I know I've got some friends that will hunt boar in just a couple counties south of here, and they'll see one every once in a while. So I know they're out there, but I've yet to have an issue with them busting through a fence and breeding a sow when I wasn't expecting it. So. But yeah, so there's a feral potbelly out there somewhere.
There. If he's still out there, he's got his He's lonely.
Exactly. Haunting the woods.
Yeah. Some hunter's going to come across and be like, what is this?
Exactly. No doubt. Yeah, that'd definitely be one of them head scratchers for sure. It's like, what did
Yeah.
I just see? Yeah, very good. Well, since we're,
Another,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
another thing we're doing on the farm that our goal is to utilize things like the lard. And my wife and I are planning at some point to get sheep, um, just more for um, my consumption and products for her to use in her custom gifts that she does at her store.
Oh yeah,
The lard, we want to do soap making. We're going to grow loofahs. She's going to make fragrant sponges and stuff like that. So eventually, I have a bunch of beehives. I eventually plan on um, getting bees, but I was going to do it this year, but I'm not prepared yet.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like the 5 acres is going to be really chocked full of a lot of variety there, and I think that's interesting. I would say as an entrepreneur or a self employed individual to another that that kind of all ties together, doesn't it? You see all the
Mm-hmm.
byproducts and the value added opportunities of whatever you're doing, whether it's a garden or pigs or bees, and then see how can I manage that enough to make that profitable in various areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have that mindset for everything we do. We want everything on the farm needs to have a purpose, and if it doesn't have a purpose, why do we have it?
Yeah.
Um, Including our dogs, but one of them's just our pet. So, but, like, if they can't produce a batch of puppies here and there, why do we have them?
Right, right. Yeah. Dog makes a fine meal.
I wouldn't be opposed to trying it.
That's right. Yeah, I always kid with my wife about that because we have a golden retriever she absolutely loves, and he's pushing about 115 pounds. I'm like, we could survive off that dog if things really got rough. So,
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen the billboard
yes.
where it's a PETA board and it says these are for consumption, but then somebody cross out like say no, these too.
Right. Yeah. How far
If
would
I'm
you
hungry
go?
enough, this
Yeah.
one.
Exactly. How far would you go? And he lists the different things he's trying to do there. That's
Yeah. The
right.
rabbits on there. I'm like, that's first on the list. What are you
No,
talking about?
no doubt, man. Yeah, rabbit's real tasty. My goodness. That's great. Yeah, that reminds me. I work with a nonprofit. Man, getting down a rabbit hole here, huh? Work with a nonprofit and helping them install a garden, and they're like, "Well, we've got an issue. The last time we had a garden here, we have rabbits just come in and obliterate it." And I said, "Well, I know how to fix that. And we're trying to raise food for the addiction recovery people in the residential service. So we can take care of those rabbits just as well as we can take care of the garden." She's like, "You'd eat those rabbits?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
Yep, delicious.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, if
Uh,
something's
First
something.
time I made rabbit for my kids, I cut them up in little like size of chicken nuggets, and I called them coney nuggets.
Yeah, that's good.
We eat coney nuggets and Bambi burgers.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like I remember in grade school, a friend's dad made squirrel head gravy for the first time I'd ever experienced it, and was doing fine until I actually saw the squirrel head in the gravy and kind of freaked out a little bit. But it was really tasty up until that point.
Yeah, I don't think that would go over with my wife. My kids are a little more adventurous,
Yeah,
but she likes the main three: chicken, beef, and pork.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, since we're talking about feed and food, so what is your being in Iowa? There, I assume you probably have a wide variety of feed options when it comes to sourcing how you're going to grow your pigs out.
Um, it's corn and beans. That's what we have.
Okay.
Oats are becoming harder to come by.
Hmm.
Um, I source my feed at a local elevator. I did recently purchase an older grinder mixer
Hmm.
that I've got to redo some stuff on, free some stuff up. It's been sitting a while, but um, if you go to the feed store to buy feed, you're gonna get corn and beans with the minerals and stuff.
Yeah. 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 That's what we get to. Is that what you're thinking right now? You're going conventional, non-GMO, get to where you're going to start mixing your own.
I, my personal take on that is that's all just a label.
Hmm.
Um, the being raised in monoculture Iowa, I had ag classes in middle school, and my kids are in FFA, and
Hmm.
so the the talk is not um, organic. That type of stuff is not what we are here.
Hmm.
There are people that are, but that's not our market and won't be our market,
Right.
which is the driving force. But it's also not really our belief. I actually worked for Cargill for
Hmm.
7 years, and in a corn mill, we processed corn there. I'm not a big fan of processed corn products for my consumption, but when you put it into an animal, and most of our feed that we feed on a large scale is byproducts of stuff that they can sell to big companies like Pepsi and McDonald's. Um, so when you take apart a kernel of corn and what's left, like we feed the majority of the cattle in Texas and where it's raised is fed the outside of the kernel of a corn mixed with the water that they steep the corn in to swell it to bring it out and some other stuff.
Hmm.
Now, when you feed that to a cow that you're a steer that you're raising to slaughter in a year and a half, whatever, that's fine. But if you fed that 3 years to that same cow, the cow would die. It's poisonous to them. So I'm not a big fan of that. But eating that cow isn't really changing the meat on grand scale, but that's not me. That's not my market. That's never going to be my market. I want my animals to be on grass, on dirt, on real food, but I'm not going to be upset if I have to feed them some corn
Right.
or if some beans get in it or whatever,
Hmm.
because I don't have a market to the people that would want the organic.
Yeah, and that's there's wisdom in that as well, especially looking at that from a market standpoint. If you're going through all this effort to truck in non-GMO or organic, and you can't get the return on investment in that because people are like, well, I don't want to pay the price that you got to charge for that. Then yeah, just provide what you provide. It's funny because we do similar. We feed conventional feed to our pigs, but I feed non-GMO to my broiler chickens because my market for the broiler chickens is a little bit higher demographic, and
Mm-hmm.
they want to do that. They want that to be the process, and they will pay that premium dollar per pound for the non-GMO. So it's like I'm kind of indifferent myself. I don't really care one way or the other. But if my market, my audience wants X, then we'll provide that as long as I can get the good return on investment.
Mm-hmm. Now, personally, I don't want to have anything to do with food that's been mass produced and processed.
Yeah.
I don't feel well after I eat it. That's why I want to raise my own.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's, and I think too, like we can get wrapped around the axle. This is a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
podcast talking about, when the government gets involved with the organic label, what are we really talking about these days anymore too? So,
The word natural on a package means nothing.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it, it,
yeah. I'll never forget when I got my egg handler's license, which here in West Virginia, you just pay a $10 fee. They don't even inspect you or anything. They just it's basically like a tax. They just want to know who you are. But they send you this little list of things you cannot do. And one of them is you cannot say, all natural. You cannot say, um, oh, what was it? Because we started calling it pasture raised. It used to be another word you couldn't say because that was reserved for the big boys, and they wanted to be the ones that say this is all natural. You can't grade them. You have to make sure they're ungraded. So
mm,
all these type of things. It's like with a small farm producer, we have to label stuff, but we're not allowed to use the words that the big boys use. And our processes are way more natural than theirs are. So I just thought that was ironic. And it's like this isn't about this has nothing to do with actually reporting the quality of the food as much as it is just keeping everybody in a certain category.
right. Iowa's got pretty strict laws on like um, people coming on to larger farms, taking pictures. Like they're serious about it. Like
Yeah.
the advocates and the people that are really upset about like chicken in cages, pigs in confinement. They're not allowed to come in and take pictures. They can actually get in big trouble for that.
Yeah. Interesting.
We are all about pigs, corn, and beans.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a way of life there, and it's like coal here in West Virginia. You come in and you malign coal, at least you would 20 or 30 years ago. You get wrapped in the mouth at least, and some places you get shot. So you don't come in bad mouthing coal. You don't come in bad mouthing pigs and corn and beans in certain areas too. So I get it.
In Texas, cattle trucks have the right of way.
Yeah. There you go. Awesome. Well, Chris, before I let you go, I want to ask you a question, and I ask everybody this same question. So, from your experience, what is your favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
Watching people hold a baby. There's just nothing better than seeing that, whether it's a kid or an adult. You get a screaming little baby pig, and it just brings pure joy to people.
Yeah, I agree. There's no better television than sitting down and watching 4 or 5 day old pigs just flop around and jump and bounce, and they're like cats on crack. It is hilarious.
Yep. Well, it's hilarious. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Well, Chris, if people want to find out more about your farm, do you currently have an online presence? Do you have anything like that developed yet?
I just started a Facebook page, but I haven't added any content yet.
Okay.
I have my personal Facebook page. If you look at Chris Enos online, I'm out there.
Okay.
But we're planning on website and expanding our Facebook presence.
Yeah. Yep. That all comes with time for sure.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, man, I sure appreciate you coming on the podcast. Enjoyed talking with you, and I'm glad we could finally get our dates lined out right. And
it worked out great.
It did. It worked out. Even though it was unscheduled, we lined up perfectly, and just was meant to be. So.
All right.
Well, man, I pray you have a great week, and thank you for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure.
All right. Well, I really appreciate Chris coming on the podcast. He actually, as I mentioned in the front bumper, he gave me an update this last week that he's actually bringing in Iowa Swabian Hall pigs. So he's got the opportunity to bring in I believe it's a breeding group, and he's going to have that on his farm soon. So we'll need to get Chris back on maybe next year and see how that breed's working out. I don't believe I've talked to anyone yet that has Swabian Hall, unless you count Carl. Obviously, Carl, that's one of his leading breeds there, but I'm curious to see how that works out for Chris. Well, as I mentioned, if you want to join us on the live chat, just be a Patreon supporter. $5 is the minimum. You can get in there a month and be a part of the live chats as we move forward with those, and look to have some good discussion here in the month of June coming up. As always, I appreciate everybody watching. Really appreciate the feedback. Please just let me know what I need to do to make the entire pastured pig experience better. I'm talking about the Facebook group, the website, the podcast, all of that. I'm very open for criticism, so I appreciate any input that you guys want to share. Well, as always, I pray everyone have a great week, and I hope everything's going well on the pasture as we get into the summer months. All right, take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.